Hello and welcome to Wake and Jake, a very special edition, probably an all-timer if I had to guess. Bailey is here, and we are building a favorite players lineup. We have some stipulations and rules around it, but we're just putting together our favorite baseball team. Bailey, you start running, my good man.
Yeah, for me, this was a list about sort of child like wonder. You know, we see the game's players a little bit differently now than we did when we were children. And, when I was growing up, I think a very common type of discussion you might have with your friends is, hey, who's your favorite baseball player?
Sure.
Even now, when I meet a kid who likes baseball, that's my number one question that I want to know. Who is your favorite baseball player? There can be so many reasons for this. It can be because they're really good. It can be because of the way they conduct themselves on the field. It can be because of the look. Do they have an especially good ball playery look or ball playery name? I think, throughout this list, as we put together each our sort of starting lineup of our just favorite baseball players, at least, from our lifetimes, I think there's going to be all the above.
Yes, the my favorite part of this exercise was kind of what you just mentioned and the why. Like for a couple of them it came down to the position, and a little bit of it was like, how do I like seeing that played the best? And is it you need to be a defense? I expect a defensive wizard at that position. There's one position where just this sounds dumb, and it'll narrow it down, but like, you need speed for me. Like, you can't be my all-time favorite player and play this position without speed. That it was just funny doing that conversation with myself, and it was like, do I still care about that, or was that 8-year-old me learning the sport and like, I like that? I don't know. I don't know. How do we want to reveal this, Bailey?
We should definitely go position by position, trading off with one another.
Okay.
I will say, I'm looking at my team now, and this makes sense as I grew up a Braves fan, but there is heavy National League bias here.
So that is when we were debating what stipulations to put in. Because the other thing that went through my head is this is such a fun one. We can repurpose this, and I was laughing. We could just do like favorite players every year, and if you keep track of
Yeah.
it, like you can easily do that. We have no active players. It's all retired players. Um, the stipulation was it started off with you could only have one from your favorite team. I did adjust that to two, and it was just kind of non-negotiable in my head. And the other thing is we wanted to do gentlemen's rules with like you can't pick all of the best players just to ever play. Like I copied Pujols' stance growing up, and I very much liked Albert Pujols, but I basically gave myself a couple legends. There's a lot of really good, and then there's a couple wild cards. So it wasn't try to build your favorite best team. It was build your favorite, which allows everyone's animation goes to a different place. Um, so, Bailey, I think that's all that needs to be teed up. I will kick off to you. Do you want to pick a position? Do you want to go around the horn? Or I guess who is your favorite?
I guess let's start at like first base.
Sure.
Let's just start there. Let's start at the three position. We got the battery. We can worry about the battery pitcher catcher a little bit. Let's start at first base. That feels like a comfortable place for me to start. Um, and I will say, as much fun as I'm going to have talking about my favorite players, I'm actually more interested in who you have and if there's any potential for overlap or any potential of, oh, I almost picked that guy. My favorite first baseman, the one who gave me childlike wonderment, Dmitri Young.
Okay. Okay. Tell
Played
the
a
people why.
played a variety of positions throughout his career, but first base was one of the key ones for him. I was as a child kind of obsessed with the 2003 Tigers. I was 8 years old. That team went 43 and 119. They were, the worst sort of modern team we'd seen until the White Sox last year. And Dmitri Young was really, really good on that team. He had a 900 OPS. His WAR was, I just looked this up now, his was twice as much as the next best Detroit Tiger that year. I just found that very interesting. He had like the crazy hair that, at times when he had really long would really like fro out of his hat and his batting helmet. He's listed in Baseball References database as 295 pounds, which is the heaviest position player listed that had any sort of prolonged career in the big leagues. And just I mean, he was just like a big guy, power hitter, like fun to watch. And I think at this point in Major League Baseball now, 20 years later after the fact, you don't see as much variety in terms of body composition then as you did, in the baseball that I grew up watching. I think that's kind of going to be a theme throughout this list.
And I could be very wrong on this, but that 295 I doubt was from a scale. I'm guessing that was Dmitri just at Tiger spring training saying, I'm 295. That I don't know if they got him on the scale and they weighed that out. I could be wrong. Yeah, I mean, I assumed you were going to go to Shera or Huff at first, but I see why you've gone. That was my one prepared joke. I mentioned that before the show.
Boo.
It was bad. Dmitri Young's an awesome pick. You're right. He played on some bad teams, and he was the guy. And I do think when it came to first baseman, I initially tried to mentally buck the trend of why we love first base. Because I used to be fascinated by first basemen that weren't power hitters. Like when Doug Minkiewicz and James Loney were happening, that almost made my brain turn a little more. Because I'm like, you're not a first baseman, but you are a first baseman. But at the end of the day, when you're doing your best first baseman, you need to have, it's got to be a big boy with pop. That's it.
And that's who Dmitri Young was.
A great pick at first base. Again, this is a lot of childhood memories. I wish there was a running script on me going position by position and how many times I had a Yankee pop in my head. And I was like, stop, dude. You can't pick a Yankee at every position. I was like, I love Tino. And it's like, no, bro. If you only get limited Yankees, Tino doesn't crack that list. I ended up going big again. Mo Vaughn came to mind. I always loved Mo Vaughn. It's just tough. That's when you're a little kid and you actually hate the Red Sox. That I didn't like Mo Vaughn. I thought he was huge. I thought he was the biggest man on earth. And he mashed baseballs. But at that time, I still disliked the Red Sox. Cool name, sneaky, Mo Vaughn. I guess I went with a different, more fit version and a guy who's ended up on some of our lists before. I went with Prince Fielder. How cool was he, man? Again, that big body, MLB lineage that we were familiar with, and the ESPN The Body episode or The Body magazine he did, that is everything I want from a player. That I don't know. I was mad at myself because it felt a little lamestream. But once you got into the heavy-hitting big first baseman, I don't know. The name Prince is cool. He hits every note.
Prince Fielder really is just a version of Dmitri Young that was 30% better. I mean, seriously, these are pretty similar players across the board. They even have the lineage thing now because Fielder's the son of a big leaguer, and then Dimitri's son, Quentin, is on his way. So it kind of goes full circle that way. So yeah, I love it. Prince Fielder was also, if you'll recall correctly, I think my first pick in the name draft that we did. So he's showed up a couple times for us this year. We love Prince Fielder.
It's massive. A couple 1-1s for Prince. I'll be honest, first base might be my weakest, least opinionated position. So if I was any good at hosting, I should have maybe deterred that. But it's out of the way. It's in our rear view. Do we head around the horn to second?
I think we do.
This one was I'll lead off a little bit. I'll take the baton. Again, there were some names that just popped up, and if we're being honest about favorite, I had to have them on the team. And some of those guys are really good and at other positions. So second base, surprisingly, was a loophole for me. Because, you generically think of second base, the little guy on the team. there was a couple pop names that rolled in my head. Like everyone loved Orlando Hudson, the O Dog.
Oh
I
yeah.
I didn't have those full heartstrings for him. I thought he was good, but I wasn't like hooked. Um, I went to a guy that's a little bit of a 1 year wonder. Another cool name, so I'm wondering how much that affected me. But it was also the way he wore the uniform, fantasy baseball implications for me, some power at second that always plays a little bit. I'm going with Junior Spivey.
Ooh.
I'm going with Junior Spivey. He was a dog. It turned out it was really only 1 year, but he was a dog.
It is, first of all, it is truly one of the all-time great baseball names for starters. Junior Spivey.
Right?
Ha- Have you ever met a Spivey in your life? You know,
Not,
that's a crazy name.
I have not. And
Uh,
BBD, I'd hate to cut you off. You're showing a nice Junior Spivey over the back catch for everyone watching on YouTube. His look right there was so dialed.
yes.
Flip up shades, like those Diamondback jerseys when they were new. Like that's what I wanted second.
Like that's a ball player right here.
Yes.
I think, what's interesting is when you were describing your second baseman, I was a little bit worried that there was overlap because the things you were looking for in your second baseman kind of similar to the appeal for me.
Okay.
So maybe I should just jump right in.
Please.
While we watch Junior Spivey beating the shift very quickly. um,
10 minute
my 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 second baseman of choice, I will say, also looked very good in the uniform. And he rocked two of the classic uniforms, as he was kind of known for in his prime. He was White Sox and then Giants, because I'm going with Ray Durham.
Okay.
And this is very much in the category of, wait, second baseman can hit homers?
Yeah.
And he was a power hitting second baseman in his heyday. And by that, I mean, he had a bunch of seasons where he hit 15 to 20 home runs. I like that he was, I looked him up on Baseball Reference. He was 5'8", 170. He was shaped like a second baseman. And man, he looked good in the uniform too. I think his White Sox look, where you have the long black sleeves, like just very ball playerish. The Giants uniforms, like all-time classics. On his Wikipedia, there's a like a late career picture of him playing for the Brewers, and it's just total aura loss.
Mm.
But like, man, he looked very cool and ball playerish like all throughout his career. He had pop, he could steal bases. He was just like a fun, like kind of do everything second baseman.
He's a great choice. I did think about it. He again, I I needed a couple. I don't want to say squeaky wheels, but I have a lot of people that land in this Ray Durham area of like, you are really good. I mean, Ray Durham has some years, especially for second base at that time, he was not in his own area code, but Ray Durham was really good. Yeah, I love the pick. Fun player, pretty swing, short king, checks every box. If there's like if we combine this with doing the best team one day, Roberto Alomar would always blow my mind. They would play against him, and you were just like, that's the best guy on the field. Like what? And it is interesting where some of his stats are on all time, but second base, and then the other thing with second baseman, I mean, if you really want to get grindy with it, there's some names that'll turn your head that you're like, oh, that guy was a dog, but I don't. They didn't do enough for me. I'm trying to get one Frank Menachino.
Or even just like a Craig Counsell or an Adam Kennedy type
Right.
guy,
Craig Counsell. I debated it, him and Eckstein, which brings us to the shortstop position, Bailey, and I give you the honors.
I took the coward's way out here because I kind of wanted to go Jack Wilson, but it's like, just at the end of the day, I just loved Tulo. I just, and I get that this was like a superstar, like Hall of Fame caliber talent, but that's just who I loved when I was like in, he's not even really my formative baseball loving years, but really just like peak, like, I don't know, like middle school, high school, like this guy is one of the most incredible players I've seen. he was big, like he's
Yeah.
really part of a lineage of big shortstops that is the norm today. But really, up until then, it was Ripken, it was A-Rod, and then it was Tulo. Even Jeter was tall, but he wasn't like built the way those other two were. With Coors, I think you get into a lot of fun stuff, like guys who played for the Rockies, that can put up ridiculous like batting averages in any given year, just ridiculous numbers across the board. But like his glove too that we're seeing in these highlights to me is really just, I mean, he was astoundingly good defensively as well, and obviously injuries sort of like cut short what would have been, I mean, quite frankly, a Hall of Fame career, if he'd been able to stay healthy. But I mean, he was just an incredible player in all facets of the game, a superstar, and just my favorite shortstop growing up.
Favorite shortstop's a powerful thing. It's basically what you're told, like the best player plays. So yeah, I mean, Tulo at his peak, some of the numbers are insane. I think he's my friend John's favorite player too. So maybe I'll connect you guys or something. Yeah, Tulo's not a Hall of Famer, right?
No, he's like one of those where it's
Yeah.
not like a David Wright situation where you're like, or like a Felix situation where you're like, well, this didn't quite end how we wanted it to, but it's close enough, maybe, It's like, no, he's not, but also, my goodness, he could play.
That's where my shortstop, a lot of the greats come into play because, like we just said, you got to be great to play the position, and the skills that impress are great. That was good, Jake. For me, this is what I teased at the beginning. I love a speedy shortstop. I think a speedy shortstop is awesome. It's almost when I was learning to love baseball, it was like if you had the good, speedy defensive shortstop at the top of your lineup, I thought your team was cool. I thought you were good. And so a couple names came into play. I wondered how much I loved Jose Reyes. Again, there's a little Mets effect in there that I don't know. I always thought he was really good. I wasn't like fascinated by him. There was a guy who played in the same division on a team you really like, Bailey, that epitomized what I wanted from a speedy shortstop with a cannon for an arm. I'm going with Rafael Furcal, man.
It's a great pick.
Do you have, where's Furcal in your life timeline?
Oh, I mean, we're perfectly aligned. We are perfectly aligned to like he's winning Rookie of the Year. He's like leading the league in stolen bases, like right. And I'm glued to the screen. He fits it beautifully. He's one of the first, apart from like obviously Chipper, like Braves players. I remember like really being one of my favorite players. And yeah, I mean, you see him legging out the triples. I mean, he was fast. He was small. He had like kind of like fun years away from the Braves too. Like he had he'd pop up and have like a really good year for the Marlins or a really good year for the Dodgers too. So like he had some longevity to his career as well. And yeah, he was kind of because he was like sort of the first Brave shortstop of my childhood. I remember he was sort of like the blueprint of what I thought a shortstop was and should be, like you said.
Right? Like I guess if you're a shortstop and you're not Tulo or you're not like the best player I guess if you're a shortstop and you're not one of the best players in the league, that's what I want. Give me the speed, give me the defense. Career 281, 346, with 314 career stolen bases. Just a fun player to watch. I was interested to see where I'd go because again, this is a tricky one because obviously the heartstrings I have for Derek Jeter there's a poster of him behind me. That I was interested to see where my brain was going to wander with shortstop, and I'm happy with where it landed. Third base, I'll cut in again. This might surprise some of the people, although I feel like it's a story I've told before. I love third base defense and center field defense. Those are my two favorite things in the entire sport. That when your brain's developing and you're learning the game, for me, it was kind of like, who are the best to ever do it? Brooks Robinson. I'm putting him at third base. One of my buddies in middle school bought me a picture of Brooks Robinson. I kept it with me through the years. The human vacuum cleaner. and he was just the best. He's what I was told was the best third baseman. And the thing that I think is the coolest on the baseball field, playing third base defense, he's the best at. And like,
Yeah, that's the iconic play on the screen right there. I think that's like 70 World Series, I want to say. It's like 70 or 69. But yeah, that is, and the thing is, he's such an influential player because he's so ahead of his time. Third base is now considered like a premium defensive position, right? We had kind of the generation with Beltre and then followed that up with guys like Machado and Arenado, but Brooks Robinson really is the blueprint decades before all of that. He's the first player to really define third base as a position where premium defense is to be played.
so and God, I mean the award section, MVP, 18-time All-Star, 16-time Gold Glove winner. So again, this was from my pile of you have to pick someone. He's really good. He's a guy that shaped my baseball mindset for life. Obviously, I didn't watch Brooks Robinson play a lot live. He finished in 77. But yeah, I thought it was cool when I started wandering the internet one day, that famous play that BBD just showed. I was like, wait, that passes the eye test.
Yes.
There's a lot of times you watch some of the old-timey stuff and you're like, oh, all right, that's good. Brooks Robinson, I think if you dropped him in today's baseball, he would be one of the olds that would figure it out the easiest because I think his defense would still easily play.
Yeah, that's interesting that you bring it up about the eye test because I mean it's true. Even without the proper context of the catch, like Willie Mays' catch looks like a catch that's made somewhat frequently in Major League Baseball. It's not because it's 440 feet away from home plate, but you have to have like sort of the trained baseball eye and understanding to really be able to contextualize that.
And
Whereas Brooks Robinson, like he's just uncorking that thing across the diamond. It's pretty incredible.
And they say the throw by Mays was even more impressive.
Right. He prevented Doby from scoring from second on the play.
Nobody said that. It's a nice throw. The catch is what makes it. Where are you going?
Yeah, I'm going completely opposite direction. I'm going just third baseman who raked, raked, put up numbers every year. I'm going to Aramis Ramirez.
Sure.
Aramis is a really cool name. I think we've seen it a couple other times in MLB, but he is the most famous MLB Aramis. And yeah, I mean, he debuted at 19 and his last game was at 37. So he played a long time. And you look at some of his numbers, they are, even though he's not like a Hall of Famer, I think we're getting into like, for me, like a lot of Hall of Good to Hall of Very Good tier players. Like, I mean, he had 2,300 hits. He had almost 400 homers. He was like over a 280 hitter for his career. And just, he was a third baseman. Like he really, he had kind of the look of someone who's like would come up as a third baseman and then maybe move first base or, if he's in the American League DH later on too, but just like, no, he played third base the whole time. I kind of like that he was just an NL Central guy. Like that always made me happy as a kid. He just, Pittsburgh to Chicago to Milwaukee, like that was his career journey. And yeah, I mean, he's, I would say probably in your office, he's probably a Sporkle legend as well. Like you're gonna, if you're not paying attention on your Sporkle, you're gonna miss Aramis Ramirez and all the amazing seasons he had.
He, for me, a lot of heartstrings. He was a big addition to my first ever fantasy baseball team that won our league. And yeah, if you go by your expectations, I believe I won in 06, and he just had a massive second half. He one dotted for the second half, 22 homers in 72 games. And yeah, again, it's where your brain goes for third base. You picture Aramis Ramirez, a cool name, real power, a guy you didn't want to see up at the plate for the other team. And something about his homers had a little more flair to them. I don't know if it's a righty power hitter or whatever it is, but for some reason he does connect with more with people than probably some other guys that have similar baseball stat pages.
I definitely think that's fair to say. There's a lot of, maybe he connects with people a little more than like Troy Gloss, or something. That's a comparable, career in a lot of ways. I was trying to think like who would I compare him to in today's game, and the one that came to mind a little bit was Austin Riley, but yeah, he's I'm not sure if there's that much of a comparable player to him in today's game. Maybe because such a player would be playing first base.
Yeah, it would be like if this was Camanero's best season ever. like
Yeah.
like he kind of had that vibe. I'm trying to see who else is in, just looking at the war neighborhood. Jeff Cirillo didn't get the people going quite as much. Yeah, I don't know. He has a lot of baseball fans' heartstrings. I think the name works, like you mentioned. And who doesn't love a Cubs Brewers coming together
Yeah.
for a moment at third base? So you want to save the battery and jump to the outfield?
Yeah, because I think just the pitcher pick, there's so many you can go for. I think we kind of want to save that towards the end.
Sure. Outfield, I asked Bailey before the show, and I said, how do we want to do it? Do we want to go left, right, center? You gave the just three outfielders options, which made things much easier for me because I initially jumped to two center fielders. I had to have. I guess give me your thought process on it, Bailey. Start wide.
With the outfielders, for me personally, like this is where I have the most variety, I think, in terms of the tier of
Okay.
player I'm talking about. I did try to kind of look for a quasi left fielder, quasi center field type, and quasi right field type. Also in my outfield, I have just my one legend of the game who was my favorite player ever growing up, and so I just can't not have him. But we'll probably save him for last. I want to hear who your first outfielder is, though.
Let me see how I want to build the drama here. You know what? I won't. I will go with one of a guy that has an argument for the best to ever play this sport. And he gets overshadowed by steroids people, and I would say twice a year I get really mad about it. Because this guy, up until age 30, has an argument for the best player to ever play the sport. A lot of people jump to Bonds, and they just say Bonds is the best. This guy, up until age 30, was better than Bonds. And Bonds, if you know what happened after age 30, and not a lot of guys did what Bonds did in his later years because of one specific reason. This guy had a different story because injuries started to kick in. He's also the coolest player to ever play the sport. It's Ken Griffey Jr. Ken Griffey Jr., the batting stance is cool. The swing is the prettiest. Baseball lineage, which we're finding out is a factor in this. He has that, along with his godfather. Defensive highlights every way. On this play that BBD has on the screen, Joe's McFly says he thought Ken Griffey Jr. was the fastest person he's ever seen in the world. That's him scoring in the 95 playoff game against the Yanks. I get hot about it every twice a year or so that, he's now in the Randy Johnson photography bucket that I'm not sure what to do with that. No one brings him up as the best to ever play. And that used to be a thing. And it makes me a little mad because his 30s got chewed up by injuries while everyone else was part of the steroids era.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I mean, Griffey's remembered as a legend forever, but there are a lot of sluggers from that era who I think would be revered a little bit differently, with removed from the context of the steroid era, removed from, 50, 60, 70 homer seasons being normalized, right? I look at a guy like even like Carlos Delgado, who I feel like got just completely swallowed up by that era, despite flirting with nearly 500 home runs. I look at Fred McGriff, who took so long to get into the Hall of Fame. Obviously, Griffey's like a tier of player ahead of them. For me, when I think of Griffey, it's like, you don't see players who are A, that good, that talented, and B, play the game with such reckless abandon, right? And that's maybe a factor into like the injuries in his 30s and his body. But like, I mean, he was out there in Seattle, they're playing on turf, and he's just flinging himself into the wall to make the most insane catches in center field. Like his highlight reel catches in center field are they're up there with anybody's. They really are. Even if he's not, quite a Willie Mays, Andrew Jones center fielder talent defensively, like his highlight reel is up there with anybody's. And just, yeah, I mean, he was just the coolest guy ever, like, I mean, the backwards hat, the nickname, the kid, the playing with his dad. I mean, all the above.
It's literally every box that doing favorite list, and it sucks that he hates the Yankees, and that is what it is, and I'll live with that. Led the league in homers 4 times. Like, what? During that era, during that time frame, while also making some of the sickest defensive highlights at the position that I also think has some of the sickest highlights to be made. 76.2 WAR at age 30. 438 career homers at age 30, 296, 380, and 948 OPS, while being one of the best defensive players to ever play. It's yes, it gets me frustrated how much he's overshadowed, and I'll take those numbers against the Bonds camp all the time, Like, Barry's great. He got better. He stayed healthy. He was on the sauce that some people that just blows their mind. For me, I feel like I'm having 2 different conversations.
No, I mean, it's not just him. There's a decent amount of players who were better than Barry Bonds through like age 33, that's just a fact. Aaron outpaced him, yeah, I mean, there's guys, Bonds, so much of his career is built on the fact that he had 4 of the greatest seasons ever between the ages of 36 and 39,
Has anyone else ever done that?
Not really. Yeah, not really.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Or if they did, they all played exclusively in that era,
It was strictly from 96 to 04.
Yeah, there must have been something in the air.
God, Bud Selig. So yeah, that's probably my most passionate speech. So I'm glad that's out of the way. Give me an outfielder.
I'm gonna go Rick Ankiel. I'm just gonna flip it up on you a little bit. Yeah, I gotta go Rick Ankiel. He was the first player that did both that I can remember. Like that felt formative to me to watch a guy come up as a pitcher, really hyped prospect, flame out, had the infamous meltdown in the DS against my Braves his rookie year and just could not throw strikes ever again. And then, reinvents himself, right? Comes back up like he's, is this power hitting lefty center fielder. And I think one of the coolest things about Rick Ankiel is that, despite his yips, you still get a pitcher's arm in the outfield. And you've just got a guy uncorking some of these throws from center. Like here we go. Yeah. I mean, some of these plays are it's just absolutely preposterous. Look how far back he is to make that catch. And oh my goodness. It's there's something about a power arm in the outfield is incredible, but there's also something about a lefty power arm in the outfield that is just, and his was the very best, and I think just a very memorable player, a very memorable career arc, and just someone who everyone was rooting for, and it was just kind of awesome to see him succeed as an outfielder after flaming out as this, one of these all-time great pitching prospects.
Yes,
and look at that.
That's the lefty part is interesting. I want to circle back on that in a little bit, but yeah, you're right. Those should be wild memories for you. That. Wait, he's now playing outfield like a pitcher? Coming off the yips to, I remember when Brooks Kieschnick was the bee's knees.
Yeah.
But no, and it was cool. Stay tuned to some Jam baseball videos coming up. He enters one. In his 2008 season, man, 25 homers and 843 OPS. That is a great baseball season. It's easily his best. But the fact that he was able to do that after training to just be a pitcher until his career fell apart in front of everyone on the biggest stage, the story's insane.
It is. It's a movie. Like
It
this,
is.
if you were writing the baseball movie, this is how it would go.
Like God, as a 20-year-old, he finished second in Rookie of the Year with 30 starts to the tune of a 3.5 ERA. Like you're the next guy. You're the man. And then yippee ki yay. Good for him for bouncing back. And there's a Coors factor in some throws. There's a lot of the all-time throws have been made at Coors Field, which again I think turns into a science equation pretty easily. But I always laugh when I see a Coors Field throw because I'm like, that got a little boost.
Yeah. What was his throw plus?
You know, on Savant next week. Why don't you double up, Bailey?
I'll double up. I'm gonna go Juan Pierre.
Yeah, it's a great one.
You just kind of have to, right? Like, for me, like early 2000s childhood baseball fan, stolen bases were cool. Like if you led the league in stolen bases, you were cool, and it's kind of fun to see that come back with the rule changes. But we were in sort of a dead zone of stolen bases for a while there, throughout the 2010s until these more recent rule changes. And here's a guy who led the league in steals like 3 or 4 times. He had 9 seasons with at least 40 stolen bases. Again, I'm looking this through the eyes of a child. Like he was a 295 hitter for his career, and now I look at it now and I see an 84 OPS plus, and I'm like, like some Coors years in here, some the high offensive environment years because of the PED era, which is unfortunate for him. But like, through the eyes of a child, like this guy hits 300. He steals like 50 bags a year. And Jay-Z raps about him. He says, I used to run base like Juan Pierre on that Beyonce song. So that's also from an era where, baseball still was holding on to some sort of like mainstream cultural relevance, which I'm glad to say is coming back. But like, yeah, you take that for granted that, the most famous rapper on the planet knew who Juan Pierre was.
Yes. So, a lot of things that popped up doing this exercise are the extremes, and Juan Pierre was an extreme and seemingly good at it, and he was good at it. The OPS plus, when you include steals, made Juan Pierre a good baseball player. I was attached to Juan Pierre. I believe the Marlins were doing their parade for winning the World Series. Spoilers if you haven't watched. And he went on stage and he did a rap that maybe that inspired Jay-Z a little bit, that he rapped about their postseason path, I believe. And the lyric that always stuck with me was, then we go to Wrigley Field. I've got that wiggly feel. And that just, BBD, it's a little risky. If you go on YouTube and you, Juan Pierre - The Natural. It has 32,000 views. Let's play it. I haven't listened to this in probably 25 years.
Yeah, I have heard this.
It's worth the risk of playing, and if we have to delete it, we have to delete it.
It's not Greg Olson. All right.
Oh.
We're okay. I think we're okay.
Third leg Greg. There's a great cut to Dan Patrick at the end, too. I can't wait to hear what he says.
They came to the bottom. They slipped, and yeah, we got them. And then we go to Wrigley Field. I got the Wrigley Field. We got the Cubs, and it's all about them loves. And then we what? We went to New York, and then we came out and showed all our heart. Yes, we coming down. And we rockin' steady. We coming down. And yes, we ready.
I've got my groove on right now. My shiznick's tight.
Oh, former friend of the show.
Yeah,
enemy of the show. You know what I think? Shows, they always say friend of the show. Shows should have enemies
enemy
too.
Of the show. Okay.
Enemy of the show, Dan Patrick.
We can work that in. Wow. Can you imagine being in Miami 2003? Looked like D-Train, shaking everything he had behind him. A great pick, Bailey. A great pick.
That I will say, I thought I'd seen that clip, and I don't think I have. I think there's a different clip of him freestyling in the Marlins locker room. We don't have to watch that now. There's a difference between a public performance for the fans and freestyle in the locker room. We don't have to find out the difference on your airwaves right now.
That's for everyone on their own accord.
Right.
I'll do a quick one that this won't surprise people. It may surprise you a little bit because it's much more in our Yankee culture. I was powerless here. He is my favorite baseball player all time. It's Bernie Williams. My mother used to joke he was my father. I know my father, and I knew he wasn't my father, but my mom used to joke about that, which is a complicated chord for a young boy figuring things out. Bernie was the king of cool. Calm, cool, and collected, unless he did something great, like Bernie did celebrate. I know there's that era of baseball that was like, we never bat flipped it. Such a lie. The biggest lie ever. They did. It just wasn't replayed on TV or the internet or whatever. Bernie's got some cool signature slides. Bernie has a cool signature spin after hitting one of his big home runs. He used to glide in center field. Glide, long legs, long strides. Did it used to drive me nuts? He had a really weak arm and he didn't really steal bases. Yeah. I was like, Bernie, why are you fast and you can't steal bases? You're a young boy. You know nothing. Switch hitter with almost a perfectly balanced OPS from both sides of the plate. He was in the middle of the dynasty in center field. 4-time Gold Glover. I genuinely think he has much more of a Hall of Fame argument than he has currently gotten. I don't know how the committee's going to handle him and Jorge one day, if they'll ever care or if not. And if I had to pick between him and Jorge, I was a Bernie guy, so maybe my bias is there. 839 career OPS versus righty, a 900 career OPS against lefty. I love Bernie.
The thing about Bernie that he's not in the core four,
It's
like
insane.
he's, I guess, cause he's like a year or two older than those guys. Or he was like, but that's always been to me like a subtle form of like disrespect for like how good he is that the Yankees have what's referred to as this sort of core four group of players that brought them those championships in the late 90s, and he is not considered part of it, even though he's just as impactful as any of the others.
It's insanity. It's with 4 straight Gold Gloves in the middle of the lineup. His peak can go toe-to-toe with almost any center fielder. I think he had a 900 OPS for 8. Like if you do him over 8 years, 9 years. So yeah, again, this is something I'm a little too close to. But basically I was told he was the coolest. He plays the guitar at a high level, at like a respected musician level, like not.
I think he has Latin Grammys, or at least has been nominated.
Like he's the guy. He's baseball's Bad Bunny.
I thought you were baseball's Bad Bunny.
Well, I guess he was, and then he passed the torch on to his son.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. Bailey?
I guess I'll just finish it off with a very little known player. The coolest player of all time. My favorite player when I was a kid. The first player I remember really being captivated by that wasn't on the Atlanta Braves. It's Ichiro, man. Ichiro's the coolest baseball player ever.
Yes.
It's not even, I don't even think it's up for argument. He is the coolest baseball player ever. I think him breaking the single season hit record in 2004 is still like the most impressive individual accomplishment I can think of that occurred in my lifetime, because he was breaking a record from George Sisler that was like 90 years old. Even when Maris beat Ruth or when McGuire beat they're breaking like 30-year-old homer records. Ichiro is he's got 262 hits in a 162 game season. He has 100 more hits than there are games in the season, and he was just just like a baseball obsessive, a baseball perfectionist. There's the infamous story about him not knowing who Tom Brady was, but Tom Brady was reaching out because he wanted to learn about Ichiro's pregame stretching routines. Here's a guy who, was like slight and spindly and a complete Iron Man, like basically like never missed any time throughout his career, despite the grind of the schedule. The fact that he's playing in Seattle, where you have the most travel every year, no matter what. Here's a 60 WAR player at the big league level. He didn't make it to the big leagues until he was 27. Jake, like he was a phenom in Japan by the time he was 19. He's the world all-time upper tier professional league like hit leader. He has more than Pete Rose if you combine the MPB stats. I know like it's a little bit shady because if you give Pete Rose his affiliated ball hits, I think he has more. But like he's just the coolest baseball player ever. He was doing all these things too, of course, in an era where he was going against the grain, because it was, he came up in 2001 still in that steroid era, and he was just hitting them where they ain't. All-time great defensive right fielder, all-time great base stealer, especially in terms of efficiency. If you really break it, that's just like he's the coolest baseball player ever, and he's also one of the greatest baseball players ever.
Yeah, I mean his hitting style just blew people away, and it's Bailey, something I'll always give you credit for, saying that Juan Soto is the best baseball player at not getting out. Ichiro was kind of that. I know on base percentage wise, he wasn't. He was the best player at getting hit. He led the league in hits 7 times. 3,000 hits when you don't get started till age 27 is nuts. With over 1,000 career hits back in Japan. He has an argument for the coolest life ever. How about that?
Yeah.
Or just like the coolest person ever. He's got those couple silly interview clips that are out there. Him and Randy Johnson both wear 51. How cool is that?
And one of the coolest Ichiro pictures is when he met Michael Jordan. This was back when he was still playing in Japan, and he's just like, you can tell Jordan's like someone he like idolized, so he's just like straight up cheesing, and he's wearing just a Tom and Jerry sweatshirt to meet his idol. And it's just like that's who Ichiro was. Like even at his dorkiest and his fanboyest, like he's still so cool. He's still so much cooler than anyone else to ever play the game.
You, me, and BBD get caught with our Michael Jordan picture wearing our Tom and Jerry sweatshirt, and it's over. The internet,
it's a career ender.
It's a career-ending injury. It's thoracic outlet in both arms. And instead, Ichiro is just part of his pile of cool. Yes, I debated putting him on my team. I just felt I had too many historically good players as much as I love Ichiro, Bernie Williams, my pseudo father, and Ken Griffey is probably the America's baseball. Okay, here's Japan's coolest man ever. Baseball. Who's your coolest man ever from America? Here's Ken Griffey. So
right, exactly.
That's basically what it came down to for me. So who's your outfield? Do I have 2 or 3 of them?
You got 3. You got Pierre, you got Ankiel, and you got Ichiro.
Ankiel, Pierre, and Ichiro. What a combo. couple lefties. And Ichiro's arm is insane.
Yes. But he was small.
Get an Ichiro throw, BBD. You're right.
I mean, you got to get...
Vladdy Sr. had an arm, but it made sense.
Yeah, get the Terrence Long. Yeah, it made sense. He was, like, big,
Vladdy Guerrero throwing a baseball looked like Camilo Doval from the outfield. You were like, yes, that man has a cannon. When Ichiro came over, and this is still pre-scouting, I'm sure they told us he had a good arm, but there was definitely people that are like, yeah, we'll see if that plays in America. It's like, oh my God, he has the best arm in the league.
One trick for the YouTube audience out there, if there's like a Japanese player you like, and of course Ichiro's, at least pre-Shohei, the most famous one, you can look up, like, go to Ichiro's Wikipedia page and just copy and paste his name in Japanese characters, and then put that into YouTube, and you can just watch hours of Ichiro hitting it where they ain't and getting infield singles and bunts. You can they have so many compilations of his career, and you don't really get fed them because they have like Japanese language titles on YouTube, but you can watch just hours and hours of Ichiro doing that same thing over and over and over again, and it is a delight.
What a drop by you, Bailey Bear. I will round out my outfield. So you mentioned the lefty thing being a boost for Ankiel. Where I found myself in an interesting spot is when I picture some of my favorite players to play this game, especially finishing out my outfield with 2 clear center fielders. I couldn't throw a third on there. I would have felt dirty. That I needed a corner outfielder, and when I picture a corner outfielder, you need a cannon. Like, I would just think it was the coolest thing in the world, and Ichiro was on the list, and I had a couple oddballs that jumped out. I was always fascinated by Raul Mondesi. He wore a cool glove. He had a cannon for an arm. He was a threat at the plate. He's going to jail for, I think, 6 years for some sketchy stuff. It wasn't charges that should have eliminated him from the board, but I wasn't into it. And I did have to Google way too many of these guys to be like, did he end up getting in? But no, a lot of my team is clear. It came down to a couple Cuban outfielders for me. One had more of a phenom flash. One had a little more staying power. And he also fuels 2 beautiful nerds on the online baseball game. I went with Yoenis Cespedes. He was the man.
Yes.
Like, as barrel-chested as a human can be, could hit a ball as far as anyone could throw a ball as far as anyone could. He was just like a gift to the game. I don't know how else to really describe it.
I think he's one of the last players, because, we play in such like a documented era of baseball, with the internet and social media. And you may not know this, but you can actually make a career talking about baseball on the internet nowadays. But he was the last player, or one of the last players I can think of, that's like sort of apocryphal or legendary in nature, coming over from Cuba, like not a lot of people had seen him play. And then he, of course, submits the highlight tape to all 30 MLB teams that the Cespedes family barbecue is named after, because it ends with him spit roasting a pig in his backyard. But it's just him hitting like home runs in the Cuban league against questionable competition, and then it'll just be like an 80s font will just say "Wow, power" or something like that. Like it's just like 20 minutes of that he sent to each team. And yeah, the fact that he came over and was like this really good player. He's not the only player to do this. I think Puig was probably the other guy you're thinking about now that I consider it. But those guys were both the master of like mess up a play in the outfield to bait a runner into try to take the extra base, and then getting hosed from like 400 feet out, which is a very funny way to live your life.
It's my favorite throw on a baseball field. BBD. Cespedes throws out Kendrick. And the way you just set that up, Bailey, couldn't be any more perfect, because he literally just shoves the ball away with his glove in an attempt. But the ball is to the corner, and it's a place on a baseball field I've never seen someone throw home to. If you're not on YouTube, this is the part that you should come on YouTube. By the way, it's a 1-1 game in the 8th.
Yeah.
Angels... Howie Kendrick. Go back.
You can't even see him where he's throwing from because he's so in the corner.
I believe that's Trout that hit that, by the way.
That's Trout. Yeah.
So he kicks it to the corner. And if you could pause it, BBD. Howie Kendrick he's rounded third. He's heading full steam to home. And Cespedes is maybe about to throw.
Like, I think
he's getting the ball in his hand at this point.
He's a couple steps around third already. Kendrick is, and I believe if we were to sync it up, Cespedes is probably just picking it up now.
Give me another pause start. When do we see Cespedes again? So the ball is. Are we tracking the ball?
This might be the ball. Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So we're in the air.
Yeah.
And it's just perfect. It's a perfect throw. And when would you ever practice that throw? Flat-footed from 330.
Imagine being imagine being a fan in Angel. Like, I'm jeering him for the 2 seconds that he messes up. He's right next to me, and I'm like, and then you get the most beautiful view of that throw. And I mean, it'd be absolutely speechless. Yeah, that is an iconic throw right there. And you don't see a lot of iconic throws from left either. I'll say that.
Oh, no. And that's where, when I was going through the arm rankings, Vladdy was in play again. Another, like, historic. He's Vladdy, the bad ball hitting. What Cespedes was incredible, and I thought he was the perfect way to round out my outfield. And it doesn't get talked about enough that I always get bad with this, but he was traded from Oakland to Boston, and it ruined Oakland's season, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that was the John Lester.
Yes.
Like, we don't really know what we're doing. Like, we need a pitcher, but also it's Cespedes, and no one's happy.
Like, it was the definition of the stats didn't fully encompass who he was for that team, because he was like the threat. It was like, the 2 at-bats a game, there cannot be runners on for Cespedes because we could lose the game. And they lost that, and they lost, like, their whole identity. And, man, his, I mean, you mentioned the lore with it. The way that his career also kind of ends is filled with lore in of itself that, God, he was good. He was good. Bailey, we have Util, starting pitcher and catcher, right?
Yeah.
Go Util.
I'm going to go Util. The Util of my childhood, it's going to be Martin Prado of the Braves primarily.
Sure.
Also some good years on the Diamondbacks, played for your Yankees too, if I recall correctly. But yeah, he was everyone kind of has the player that showed them the value of utility and positional versatility when they were a kid. If you're a little bit younger than me, maybe it was Zobrist. If you're a little bit older than me, maybe you're starting to talk about maybe like a Jose Oquendo type guy or something like that, nice name drop there by me. But yeah, for me, it was Martin Prado, just great Braves player, like just move him around the infield, a little bit of outfield. I was all about the utility with him, and he's who really just sort of demonstrated to me the value of someone who can, play just about every day, but you move him around positionally.
Yeah, Martin Prado's a great pick. He's in that, Placido Polanco. Maybe the last names are similar, but Placido Polanco's career is a lot more impressive than I remembered it being when I dove into this exercise. And a lot of exercises. He just pops up because he was a dude with a big head that could really hit the ball. Prado's okay. I didn't know. I don't have those kind of heartstrings for Martin Prado, but I'm glad you do.
I do, and he's a case where, like, I grew up, seeing like minor league baseball. Like, we had, a Braves affiliate in my hometown of Rome, and he was one of the players I remember seeing kind of early on when they moved there and being excited about, and then he makes the big leagues. And so that there's heartstrings there too, the same way kind of for that McCann, Frank Core generation is for me.
A little behind the scenes, I forget if I told the people this. Originally, I was going to do DH. You were going to do Util to honor your National League side and my American League side. The DHs they just ended up being too obvious. Like the sexy, fun one was Hafner, which if you look at his career, like he was actually, it's a really good career.
Yeah. And
it's just like a pronk that for me, it's not true heartstrings. It's just like everyone's DH heartstrings kind of. And yeah, otherwise it's like legends like Poppy, Frank Thomas. So I audibled and went to Util, and I just went pure feel because it was a guy, and it's the nickname that I think hooked me in as a young person watching baseball. Super Joe McEwing. Super Joe McEwing for the Mets. I just thought he was the coolest dude in the world. Like, whenever there was a problem, he was their like super tape that they stuck on, Flex Seal that they put on the leak. And it was just like, like the announcers would be so comical about it. They'd be like, Oh, well, Agbayani gets hurt, but who cares? Here comes Super Joe McEwing. Like, anything could happen to the Mets, and their cure-all was Super Joe McEwing, which is just so funny that you look back at the stats, and he wasn't too much of a hitter, but he could play every position, which at the time, I probably didn't fully appreciate how much of a challenge that was.
Yeah, that's a good one. Not a player I'm actually all that familiar with.
Okay.
I was looking at his stuff a little bit now, and I'm trying to think like, okay, who is this guy for me to some extent? And I don't know, because I don't think this guy played that much outfield, but I'm getting like maybe, I don't know, Aaron Miles vibes was like, I think maybe, is that a similar tier of player right there, of just you know what, you got a problem, slap a little Aaron Miles on it and see what happens.
Easy with that. Yeah, I'm trying to. Bill Hall's probably too good.
No, because he hit homers,
yeah. Yeah, I don't. Garrett Hampson. Are there Garrett Hampson stands?
I kind of love that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I bet there'd be. He has over 90 games career at third, short. Oh, I thought he had center too. Left field, 79 at right. There's a way to chop up Joe McEwing's positions in games played that I would bet he's one of the only guys to have 45 plus games at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 positions.
Yeah. There's not that many.
I mean,
those
that's
guys.
nuts, right?
Yeah, I mean, and pre-Zobrist too. I mean, all of this is under the shadow of Ben Zobrist.
All of this is PZ. The best for last, maybe, Bailey. I did a reliever too. I don't know if you have one, and I don't know if I've got
a reliever.
Okay. Why don't you do all three? Get hot. Run it.
Yeah, I'll get hot. Jason Kendall's my catcher.
Okay.
We'll start there. One of the few catchers in the 2000 hit club. For me, the way that Ray Durham for me was like, oh wait, a second baseman can hit homers. Jason Kendall for me was like, wait, a catcher can hit for average and steal bases, you know? So he was kind of an enlightening type of player for me. I will give you sort of like the fun Jason Kendall stat, which is because he was such like a hoss, like was not doing a whole lot of like, first base or anything like that. Like he was just catcher every day. He is one of only 4 players in MLB history to record 2,000 hits in games where he's playing catcher, right? Okay, so, Joe Mauer, if you got one as a first baseman, it doesn't count. Piazza as a DH, it doesn't count. He had to be playing catcher that day. The other 3 are Yadier Molina, Ivan Rodriguez, and Carlton Fisk, right? So 3 Hall of Famers and Jason Kendall. Like, that's a pretty cool one. I think I'm ready just to, I'm going to queue up my pitcher as well. And, you scared me a little bit. I don't know if we're going to overlap here or not. But because you said his name earlier in this episode, but my pitcher has to be D-Train, Dontrelle Willis. I
saw you have a reaction.
I said
I mentioned Dontrelle. Okay.
Well, of course, I grew up a Braves fan, right? So some of these NL East guys, like Juan Pierre was also on that Marlins team. Like, they stick with you. And Dontrelle Willis, it's the big leg kick, a bigger leg kick than you'll ever see in today's game. Yes. The hat cocked to the side. He was the rookie of the year at 21. He was a Cy Young runner-up at 23. And this is also very key. And I wonder if we could get in this category with you as well, Jake. But he raked as a pitcher. And that is just something beautiful, and that is something you just don't see, with the exception of Shohei, obviously, in today's game. But yeah, I mean, a career 665 OPS, 9 homers as a pitcher. Like he could swing it. There are everyday players in MLB right now that have a 665 OPS, and that's what Dontrelle Willis was for his career. Ooh, look at this, legging out a triple in the 2003 NLDS. So speed too. That's what speed do. Look at him go.
The leg kick, the throwing motion are both so iconic.
The slide.
I mean, you can tell like he's a baseball player. Like the way he slides, the way he runs. He was a pitcher who could actually kind of hit. It is a reminder that still means one of the worst hitters that we now have in the league. But that made it so much more impressive at the time because the other pitchers had a 320 OPS.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, Do your reliever as well. I have a lot to unpack, but please.
I'll hit my reliever very quickly. I think he's like the most recent player on this list. But it's Yusmeiro Petit. I just like Yusmeiro Petit. Like he just had. I like relievers who don't close ever, and he never closed, but he was always like pretty solid out of the pen. He came up as a starter, as many do. He was out of affiliated ball, and he was really just sort of a key player, especially for that 2014 Giants team. I don't think they get it done without him. He's doing some swingman stuff at that point where he's starting some games and then he's, pitching in relief as well. He has one of, I think, the coolest records ever, which is that he set down 46 consecutive batters that year. That is a record for most consecutive, that's like what, 1 2/3 perfect games
Easy.
consecutively. That is a really cool record. And yeah, I appreciate guys who, and this was really him all throughout his career, just pitched in a variety of situations, like come in, finish the game in the ninth, maybe, bail you out when the starter, loads the bases in the fourth. Like just pitchers are so finicky. They're so set in their routines. I have a lot of respect for guys who couldn't be that way. And Petit is definitely a good example of that. I want to pull up his inning splits because I was looking at them and I was very impressed by them, but he has at least 50 innings pitched in all, first through ninth inning in his career. I think that's a pretty cool accomplishment that maybe, unless you've thrown 50 complete games, you might not have done. So I think, yeah, Yusmeiro Petit is like just sort of the archetype of a reliever that I admire, just sort of old, reliable, not a closer, but, workhorse too, even like some of these years where he's, 90 innings out of the pen. And then, in 2019, he had 80 games out of the pen, just old reliable.
Yeah, and I'm now looking because it looks like he got the call at a young age. He got knocked around in the bigs, and then he left for a couple years. It looks like we're in Mexico.
Yeah, he was in Mexico. He played for Oaxaca, I think.
A couple, 3 years out of the bigs, something like that. And he comes back and he puts together a great relief half of his career. And I didn't know relievers left the biggest door open because they're some of the craziest characters. I mean, look at our guy Tyler Phillips for Miami right now. You just get a lot. You get side armors, you get everything in the world. You get insane people. Insane people end up in the bullpen. That for you dropping Yusmeiro Petit on me, I wasn't ready for that.
But it's just a type of player that I have a lot of respect for. I want who is your reliever, and then we'll get to your battery as well.
Okay, well,
flip it up a little bit.
No, because I pretty much got my D-Train thoughts out.
Okay.
The people that didn't live it in the moment, it was so sick. The leg kick was crazy. The throwing motion was crazy. He was a kid that was having fun. Like it was everything you want from baseball.
Can I just say it was appointment? Like it was,
yes.
it wasn't quite Fernando Mania. It wasn't quite maybe Pulse, but it was like that. It was like must-see TV if D-Train was pitching.
It was a time when must-see TV was a thing in sports.
Yeah.
And like he was a part of that. It was also, it's tough that he was the first guy that everyone was like, hey, I think his arm's going to fall off if he keeps doing that. And then it kind of did. He's made a nice media career out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he appears on my television screen very often. And, Jake, he is younger than Rich Hill.
Oh, wow. Well done, sir.
Thank you.
So one thing, and BBD, I'm going to need you to get Talkin' Baseball episode 130 on the screen. And you'll say, Jake, why is that? Why would you have BBD get Talkin' Baseball episode 130 on the screen? It's our interview with Jason Kendall. It is COVID. I have hurt my neck. At the start of COVID, I strained a muscle in my back. I pulled a muscle in my back sneezing. Not a joke. 4 to 6 weeks, I'm having a bad time. I look as dumb as I ever look, and I push the envelope. I'm wearing a sleeveless shirt, which, that's a Jake cord that I have. I'm wearing a leopard neck bean thing because my neck was killing me so much that I'm wearing that around my neck. A whale hat, I think, that I've never worn before. I'm not sure what that is. And the worst headphones ever invented. There's Thick Cheek John Boy, who the people don't see a lot of anymore. that was John Boy getting his work in off the field. Trevor looks young and horrified because he probably was watching us do this. There's a BBD in the corner of both screens right now.
Look at that young man.
Clean face BBD. And in the middle of the screen is Jason Kendall. By the way, I think this was 10 a.m. I think he lives on the West Coast. He gets on the Zoom. None of us have interacted with him. I forget how this interview happened. He has a giant dip in and a dip cup. And we're like, okay. And then I don't think you could see it in his frame, but he had like 3 natty lights or beers behind him. So we're like, what have we just done? We invited a lion like in the lamb den or whatever, that sheep's den, whatever that phrase is. I remember at the time, I keep telling myself to do this. It was one of my favorite things we'd done up until this point. He was awesome. Not like, he wasn't playing a character that like he was just Jason Kendall, and that's what you were getting. And it was awesome. And there was no holding back on stories. He talks about, I think, Ryan Dowmett, or a young Pittsburgh player, took over for him at catcher, and he was in left field. It was one of our first clips that went semi-viral on YouTube. He said he called pitches from left field. Like, he would make the signals to Dowmett. Dowmett would flash it to the pitcher. And he was just like the leadoff catcher, doing everything he could to take that team to victory, and it was a tough team to do it with. So I love the pick, and I need to remind myself in a dark moment to go listen to this interview, because I can only imagine what I said in it. With that, I'll go to starting pitcher because we have overlapped in a way, Bailey. It's funny what sticks with you. This is where I had to break my not another Yankee rule. You mentioned a leg kick. It's El Duque, man.
Yeah.
Orlando El Duque Hernandez. Name, awesome. Nickname, awesome. Story, insane. Brother, also a good starting pitcher. One of the craziest leg kicks to ever play this game. Amazing postseason starts. Throwing eephus pitches to A-Rod. One of them got deleted. That ball got disrupted. He has the famous play where he threw his glove to first base because the ball was stuck in it. The guy is the king of cool. And if there was ever a big game for those Yankees teams, it seemed like El Duque had the ball. And it's a guy that wasn't scared in the slightest because he literally had to escape Cuba during the scary times. Like, it's insane who he was. I forget, was it a 30 for 30 on him, or was it part of the captain doc? But they did like the El Duque.
They have one on the Hernandez brothers, I think they did.
They do one on Levon and El Duque, and it's so fucked. It's like insane that two people had to deal with that. Never mind 2 people that could be making millions upon millions of dollars in the United States playing baseball. And just everyone I knew. Like, if you met a baseball player, if you played catch or you played wiffle ball, someone was doing the El Duque.
Oh, absolutely. You know what I didn't know about El Duque, and maybe this is just my ignorance. Like, I mean, this dude was a dog in the playoffs. He has a 2.55 ERA in 106 innings. Like, when you played for those Yankees teams, like you could get a healthy sample size going. I mean, he's got a career ERA over 4 for the regular season for his career, but in the playoffs though, 2.5. That's unreal.
He had a 39-year-old El Duque, which I'm not going to throw around any accusations. Those numbers could be low, but a 39-year-old El Duque threw 2 clean outings for the White Sox that won the World Series in 2005. The guy and he had nothing at that point. The guy was just an absolute dog. Cool throwing motion. He had literally everything. And it did seem like the regular season almost was a little boring for him. And like if you needed a game, he would dial it up. But otherwise, it was kind of like let's let's get through. Andy Pettit's racking up wins with a 4.4. Why don't I do the same?
Right.
That he's and same birthday as me.
Oh, perfect.
So El Duque, and it's funny, we both went with the massive righty and lefty leg kicks. Look at that. What a baseball life.
Because you don't see those anymore. That's because it harkens back to something that we remember, that we hold dear, and that you just, listen, I understand why you don't see anymore. It's probably not the most efficient way to move, but it looks cool.
It's deceptive. Like, if you can throw good strikes with it, like, you know what bothers hitters? Clayton Kershaw's leg kick, Kenley Jansen's leg kick, Shota's leg kick. Like, if you do something to disrupt their timing or look different, it can help. Like, I don't know. I'll let the science of throwing figure it out. Relievers, I found myself in a mess. I'll be high and tight with it. I was getting slutty. Obviously, we're now friends with Peter Moylan and Jerry Blevins. That took them off the board. I got my first show haircut right after Sergio Romo, and he said a line that he tapped up Trev, and Trev's like, dude, you're still doing it, huh? And he said, famously, I'm still tricking him. Because basically he had a few years that he was 60% slider. Like, it's coming from the slide. I think he's a 28th round draft pick that like snuck into some closer roles, but like was never supposed to be. I think he's listed 5'10", 180, and he just he had what they call in the industry balls. But I'd be lying. It would be tied to the haircut just so I could tell the story. The guy I landed on, one of the first relievers, I remember thinking like, okay, that guy's not in the best baseball shape, but I'm impressed by who he is for his team on bad Minnesota Twins teams. Everyday Eddie Guardado.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's a fantastic name. And I remember, and I've gone through some box scores, I think there was some days where he threw 5 or 6 days in a row. Like, again, this is before we, like, fully cared or understood stuff, or, I think, hey, men were men. But also, there wasn't rules like you can't throw 3 straight days or 3 out of 4 days. 83 appearances in 1996. That's his biggest outlier. There's 79 and 88.
Jake, watch this.
What did my guy Everyday Eddie do here? Oh boy. I mean, that's an
It's after
athlete.
your heart.
That's an athlete.
Because the catcher loses it and just looks back at Eddie and he says, "All right, I guess this is my job."
I mean, this guy. Okay, let me knife up. He played in 231 games over 3 seasons. That's 77 games. He was in half of his team's games for 3 years as a reliever. And yeah, it didn't show in that video, and I think we were just a little ruder. He was a little thick. I wonder how much happened by the end when it gets all of us. But he had a little bit of a thickness to him. But yeah, I just remember like, oh, here's the Twins pitcher that pitches every game.
Yeah. I love those guys.
Love that. And then my catcher. I will finish it off in maybe a surprising way, Bailey, because when we were getting ready for this, we mentioned some olds. I didn't go super old, because if you're super old, you're just super old. I remember watching this catcher and being like, he can do something that other catchers cannot do. When I looked back at his page, when I was watching him, he was already kind of older. So I was watching the old version of this player.
I think I know who this is.
When you look at his Baseball Reference, he had a better career than maybe gets talked about. Do you have any clue who I'm saying?
So my thought is Benito Santiago is who you're talking about.
It sure is.
Yeah.
It sure is. And I told BBD, let's get some highlights of him. He would throw out runners from his knees.
Yeah.
And that just blew my mind. Like, up until Benito Santiago, I didn't think that was an option. I didn't think that was legal. It's like in semi-pro when they do the first alley-oop. Father Pat calls a foul on them. Like, I just didn't know. And again, this is a Benito Santiago that I didn't see. He got called up in 86. By the time I'm watching Benito Santiago, I'm picturing him, on the Giants, which is 01 through 03. And we have a Giants clip of him that's hitting in the NLCS, a homer. And I know we don't get the full BBD, if you can go back to it. The man used to pimp homers pretty good. If you can watch right after he hits it, they cut away pretty quick. But that isn't he doesn't remain in a hitting position. He is watching that ball go. And he used to hit a lot of them doing that kind of, you just did that twist kind of symbol with your finger there. 217 career homers from the catching position. Some of the other numbers aren't that favorable, but I just remember watching him and being like, that guy is different.
Well, and he's kind of the pioneer of the one knee down catching, like that is what, almost every catcher in the big leagues does now, was seen as sacrilege up until a few years ago. And that was kind of his style. There's some probably iconic photos of him basically doing, kind of like a half split where he's got one leg just way out there, behind, the opposite batter's box. And that was just kind of how he rolled. And he had the arm to be able to, compensate for that. And part of it is that he just pop time. He didn't have to pop up, he just stayed down there and flung it down to second base.
Baby, do that from the start. We currently have the slow-mo of Benito hitting it, spinning, watching it. Again, this is 02. They never used to pimp homers. And here's him watching it down the line. Get off me.
It's like it's hot. The bat's too hot.
Like, dude, it goes back much further than this. Guys have been pimping homers forever. There's that Bonds guy. I remember his defensive status in the league. And I think even if I was throwing on a baseball game in 95 or 96 and they'd say, there are the best catchers in the game, like, his defense got mentioned because it was unique in a league of freaks. He was his own version of it. Wow, we got hot from three there, Bailey. That was Steph and Clay, BBD Draymonding. Is there anything about this exercise you need to get off your heart?
No, but I think we should do this with active players sometime too. We'll maybe carve out even some time this offseason. We'll see. But I think it's just kind of fun. Like, I like to, we get so into the numbers, you guys, with your connections now are starting to like get to know some of these players on a personal level, but I enjoy talking about players in this regard as well, where they just fill us with this, I know I've said it a few times, but this sort of childlike wonderment, right? And I think that's the kind of thing that made us fall in love with the game. And I think, each and every one of these players that we've talked about is responsible for that. So I'm just very thankful for them.
And that was, I forget if I said this at the top or I didn't. This was an interesting thing to look up because of what you just said. Like, you can't Google who's my favorite second baseman. I basically just brought up like the Jaws leaderboard on Baseball Reference and scrolled top to bottom just to see like, ooh, okay, yeah, did I love Pokey Reese or was his name just cool? And just like I did that with as many players, and then because you didn't want to miss someone, you didn't want to be like, oh shoot, no, that guy's my favorite. But if they are, wouldn't you already remember them?
Right.
Kind of meta, people. Bailey, everyone's going to comment their favorite baseball players, so I'm very excited to see that. What do the foolish people have to get excited for?
It's imminent. I'm working hard. I was editing this morning. I'll go back to editing as soon as I hang up this Zoom call. But baseball entertainment opinion video is imminent.
Wow! Get ready! Holy smokes!
Get ready, folks.
Wow. We were rolling on this one because favorites get people passionate. Bailey, This was fantastic. Thank you so much. I will let you get back in the lab. Is that a football jersey?
Yes, that'd be. Well, you can't see it.
Cool.
The Atlanta United. Don't look it up. They're the best team in the league. Do not look up the table. Do not look it up. They're great.
Okay. Shout out to
Best team ever. Don't look that up.
Shout out to Atlanta United. Shout out to Bailey. Make sure you go follow him on everything where he gives his opinion baseball videos that are imminent. And this was a lot of fun. So thank you. Have a good weekend, everyone. Enjoy it. Or week. This might come out next week. Goodbye.